A few weeks ago, I remembered something very significant that took place last year around summertime. And I was able to remember this with the help of a Christian friend, actually, who helped me gain the memory back and also the meaning behind this event. You see, last year around summertime, I was going through one of the worst times of my persecution. I was sitting somewhere where I normally would go to, and I was trying to regain strength from the Lord so that I could go back home later and walk in my spirit, being recharged with the Lord so that I could outlast what was going on at home. So I was having one of those really bad days where I would be discouraged. I would feel hopeless. I would feel like there was no end to this suffering, that there was no way out of this. And when I had that day, something very strange happened. First of all, before I tell you what happened, those few weeks prior to having this day, this really bad day of discouragement, I had made sure that I put on the whole armor of God every single day as I went out, as I left home and I sat somewhere else. So I had kept God very close to me that period. I had prayed to Him a lot. I had walked in Him, made sure that He was constantly with me. But this particular day, I was very discouraged. So what happened was that I took a snack break. I was hungry. I wanted to go eat something. And I was in a very central area, so the place was very crowded of people, and there were many buses and, a lot of people where I was. And I was going to cross the street and walk towards the place where I could buy something to eat. And as I stood there, waiting to cross the street, a man came up to me. And this man walked to me specifically. It was lots of people around us, but he came up to me. And he asked me if I could walk him to the hospital, an emergency hospital very close nearby. And I thought this was very strange because, clearly this man can walk and he can talk and everything seems normal. Why would he need me to walk him over there? But then I looked at him and I saw that his eyes were white. He could not see. So he needed help to cross the street and whatnot. And at first I was scared. How can I know for sure? How can I trust this man not to hurt me? But then I thought, well, I'm in the middle of a public place, and he does look ill, and the hospital is very nearby. So I just took the chance, and I said, yes, of course, I could do that. So he held on to me, and I walked him over, across the street, and I walked him to the entrance. And as we were walking all the way there, he told me that somebody had abused him. That's why his eyes looked that way. That's why he was partially blind. But he was all right. He was going to be okay. And then he asked me what I was up to, what was I doing here? And I told him, I'm just sitting in a building nearby. And he told me, well, what's going on? And I told him, I'm trying to study, but it's not going very well because I'm going through a lot of things at home. He spoke to me and said, well, try and remember that you are not alone in your suffering. There are many that are suffering with you right now. And when he said this, I gained a sudden comfort. So I answered him and said, I am a bit ashamed to have shared my difficulties with you. I mean, you clearly are going through something that's probably more difficult than what I'm going through. And he told me, you can't compare these things. We're all suffering. Again, he moved me in the way he said that. And surprisingly enough, this man spoke in just perfect language, fluent language of the country where I'm from. It sounded old-fashioned. It sounded like he was from another generation. So we kept walking, and I walked him to the entrance of the emergency hospital. When we went in there and there was a reception, there was a woman in the reception, and she asked this man for his ID. So at first, when he walked up to the woman at the reception, he told her who he needed to meet. And she answered with, well, can I have your ID? And when she asked him, can I have your ID? The strangest thing occurred. He would turn his head and he would stare at me. He would stare deep into my eyes. This man who was partially blind stared into my eyes. And I was caught, just completely shocked by what was going on. And he would stare in my eyes for 4 or 5 seconds. As she was waiting for his ID. And I thought to myself, what is he waiting for? Does he think that I'm going to show my ID? What's going on? And then he turned back towards her and he asked her again, that he demanded to meet this person. He asked with respect. He asked with a normal, respectful tone. She told him, well, then, you can go over there and you can wait, sir. So I told him, you know what, I gotta go. And he stopped me and he put his hand on my shoulder and he stared deep into my eyes and he said, you know what, Nina, I just have to say thank you very, very much that you walked with me all the way here. You took your time to walk with me to the hospital. Not everybody would do that. And I felt deeply moved and I said, well, of course, I happen to have time today, so I'm glad I could help. I'm glad I could be of use. And then as I said goodbye to him, I walked out, and right before I left the building, he stopped me. He called my name and he stopped me and he said, Nina. And then I turned around and he looked at me and he said, never ever lose hope. Never be discouraged. Remember to keep the hope up. And when he said this, I felt so moved. As soon as he said this and I saw him, how he looked at me, there was something very strange that took place within me, spiritually. I felt just tears wanting to come up and overflow. I did everything in my power to hide the tears under my sunglasses that day when I was buying food before I returned back to the building again. And when I sat there in the building, I just cried. I cried and I cried for a very long time. I felt so moved. I felt everything. I felt humbled. I felt cleansed. I felt at peace. I felt ashamed. How could I have not remembered to not lose hope? How could I not have remembered that there are people suffering with me? These are the thoughts that kept going on and on through my head. Here was a man. He was partially blind. So I was so overwhelmed by this. And it just never left me. After this incident, I regained my hope. I regained my courage. I had him in my memory. But it wasn't until recently where I actually understood what took place that day. Because when I talked to my Christian friend recently, and I told my friend about this story, this friend would answer me and say, with so much joy, this person would tell me, well, how can you not know that this was sent from God? And I told my friend, I said, what do you mean sent from God? And my friend said, this person, if you have read the Bible, if you've read how the Bible explains different events taking place where angels visit people, you would understand that this man was an angel. He was an angel. He was pretending to be blind. That's why he spoke in a very strange fashion. He had a strange language, a very old-fashioned language. He was an angel. The way he spoke to your soul, the way he moved you, and he got you to open up to him, be vulnerable, and spill out all of your worries and of your fears to him when you didn't know him. The way that he would move you and that he would tell you exactly what you needed to hear about, that you needed to remember to not lose hope and not be discouraged. It was an angel. God sent this man to you when you needed words of encouragement. This person did not show an ID because he did not have an ID. He was an angel. He didn't have one. That's why he looked at you. He looked at you so that you would realize that he was an angel, so that you would realize that this is not a person from this world. That's why he would look in your eyes. Why else would that person have looked at me for so long when they asked them for an ID? Just the entire thing made perfect sense to me. And to this day now, I am convinced 100% in my heart that was an angel that God sent me to keep me strong right before I was freed from that oppression. So it was at the very high point of the difficulty, when I was so close to him and when I needed strength and I believed in him and I needed to remain strong, and he gave me exactly what I needed. Never be afraid, never be discouraged, never be dismayed, never lose hope. Because God is with you, because he is with you wherever you go, and whenever, wherever, however, he is with you. He is always there when you reach out to him. It's a commandment. We are to not be afraid. We are to not be discouraged. It's not a, don't dwell in your fear. It's a don't be. Don't even get there. Don't even allow it to happen. You can control it. You can control these feelings. It's a lie. The way the world teaches us that we can't control our thoughts and feelings, it's a lie. We can control these things. It is in our power, and God has told us that, and when we believe it, it happens. God bless you all. I'm so grateful for everything that has come out of this channel. Thank you all, every single one of you, for your encouragement, for your support and your prayers. I love you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care for now.